Hello out there in Nile land. We begin today's Parshat Korach. And it was maybe 30 years ago for the very first time, before I forget, of course, today's share, as always, is Lil Nishmas Rachalebos Chaim Tzi. We can only imagine the merit this woman has. So many shiurim are being taught in her honor and her memory, and generous sponsor behind all these classes of Nile. What a merit in heaven. Okay, merit in this world as well, that's for sure. So the first time, I don't know, maybe it was 30 years, it happens because of Shavuos Palaut on Friday and on Shabbos. So in Israel, Shavuos was Shavuos Friday in Israel, and overseas it's Friday and Shabbos. So therefore, on Shabbos, we read already the next Parsha, whereas in Chutz La'aretz it was Yontif, they didn't read the second. So in Israel, we're one Parsha ahead. Now today it's Korach, and overseas in America, in England, South America, in Vienna. But whereas in Israel, it's already Parshas Chukas. But I find it more than significant. I don't want to comment too much, but you have to think about this. It gives one pause that in Israel, it's Korach, and overseas it's Shlach. I could elaborate upon this, but I'll leave this as fertile things for you to discuss. How could it be that in Israel it's Korach, and overseas it's Shlach? Shlach HaNashim, to go to the land of Israel, and in Israel they're holding by Korach. Okay, first we begin with a brief synopsis of our Parsha. This is from, excerpted from Lilmod Lamed. So there's a revolt against Moshe and Aaron, led by a group of Levim under Korach, and a group of Reuvenites under Dasam and Aviram and On. Now included in this rebellion are 250 prominent members of the assembly. Korach's rebellion was based on the contention that he should have become the Nasi, the leader of the tribe of Levi. Dasam and his associates claimed the right of leadership based on their descent from Reuven, who was the oldest of Yaakov's sons, and it shouldn't be going to others, that by right they're the oldest. Moshe challenged Korach and his followers to appear the next day to meet Moshe's challenge, which we will discuss. After warning the populace to stay clear of Korach and his assembly, Moshe announced the method by which God would vindicate his selection of the leaders. If the rebels would die a natural death, Moshe would be proved wrong. But if they would be swallowed alive by the earth, then Moshe's leadership would be confirmed. No sooner had Moshe spoken than Korach and his fellow rebels, as well as all their possessions, were swallowed alive into the ground. The remainder of the people fled in terror. Those who had survived began to murmur against Moshe, holding him responsible for the deaths of Korach and his followers. They were in turn punished through the plague, which took the lives of an additional 14,700 people. It was only when Aaron walked among the people with a pan of incense, as Moshe had instructed him, that the plague subsided, and we'll discuss this as well, how Moshe remembered to do this. God then ordered the prince of each tribe to bring a rod with his name on it into the Ol Moed. These rods, or if you prefer these staffs, were placed together with the rod of the tribe of Levi, which bore the name of Aaron, and they were placed before the ark. The following morning, Aaron's rod alone was found to have produced buds, blossoms, and almonds. Indisputable proof that God had chosen Aaron to be the Kohen Gadol. Aaron's rod was preserved in front of the ark as a warning for future generations never to challenge the right of Aaron's lineage to the kahuna. Because the Kohanim and Levim would not have a specific portion of the promised land, they would be supported by the set contributions from the populace. The Kohen would receive provisions like the Bikurim. Bikurim means the first fruits, the Pidyon Oben, Pidyon Bechorim, which means the firstborn, the Truma, the first portion of each person's produce, and various offerings. Levi would receive Ma'aser Rishon, 1/10 of each person's produce, in which he would have to set aside a portion for the Kohen. And there we have our synopsis. Now let's go a little bit more in depth. We have in our Parsha, our Parsha really begins with Korach, how he begins with his... It makes fun of Moshe Rabbeinu. He begins like this. I'm not going to discuss this now because God will talk about it next week, but I'll just give you the hint because this is how it always begins. It always begins with Korach coming and saying, "Tell me, Moshe, do you need to have a garment which is entirely blue? You must wear tzitzis." And everybody's laughing by the question because tzitzis only has one strand of blue, which we spoke about tzitzit in last week's Parsha. So you have blue, one strand of blue. Certainly, if you have blue, everything is blue. You're not going to need tzitzit. And tell me, Moshe, do you need to have a mezuzah in a house if it's full of svarim? listen, if you have full svarim and a mezuzah is just one little piece of cloth, one little piece of parchment, certainly you're not going to need a mezuzah. That was his line. Everyone was laughing at this question as he's trying to catch Moshe on his technicality, on a seemingly absurd question. And we'll deal with this next week. Okay. So our parsha tells the story of the first mutiny on the bounty, the first rebellion. Korach was a great man, but he was overly ambitious. And he's going to challenge the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now we have to also emphasize what the rebellion was not about. What wasn't it about? Korach sought to take power from Moshe. But he never denied that Moshe had taken them out of Mitzrayim. He never denied that Moshe had split the sea. It's a remarkable thing today with this phenomenon of so-called Holocaust deniers. And if you're familiar, it wasn't all that long ago that there was a priest which the Pope said he can be part of the church. He was a Holocaust denier, but he said, and then when